Romans chapter 1, verse number 16. I think we've looked at that one before. Romans chapter 1, verse number 16. The Apostle Paul said, I'm not ashamed of the gospel, for it's the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, and then to the Greek. So what again we're asserting is that Jesus, who is the gospel, can meet every basic need of our life. And so today we're going to talk about how Jesus can meet our need for life over death. We're in John chapter 11, and it might be interesting to go to John chapter 20 to see the purpose of the Gospel of John. In John chapter 20, verse number 30 and 31, it says, the disciples saw Jesus do many other miraculous signs in addition to the ones recorded in this book. But these, the ones recorded in this book, are written so that you may continue to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing in him, you will have life by the power of his name. So now we're looking at John chapter 11. In John chapter 11, you might remember from last time, the friend of Jesus, Lazarus, is sick, and actually he is getting ready to die. So we'll pick it up there, and if you would like to know the backdrop, you can listen to the last two red glasses to see what we've said previously. John chapter 11, beginning with verse 11. Then he said, Jesus said, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but now I will go and wake him up. The disciples said, well, Lord, if he is sleeping, he will soon get better. They thought Jesus meant Lazarus was simply sleeping, but Jesus meant Lazarus had died. So he told them plainly, Lazarus is dead. And for your sakes, I'm glad I wasn't there, for now you will really believe. Come, let's go see him. Thomas, nicknamed the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let's go too and die with Jesus. When Jesus arrived at Bethany, he was told that Lazarus had already been in his grave for 4 days. Bethany was only a few miles down the road from Jerusalem, and many of the people had come to console Martha and Mary in their loss. When Martha got the word that Jesus was coming, she went to meet him, but Mary stayed in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you only had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now I know that God will give you whatever you ask. Jesus told her, your brother will rise again. Yes, Martha said, he will rise when everyone else rises at the last day. Verse 25, Jesus told her, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never ever die. Do you believe this, Martha? Yes, Lord, she said. I have always believed you are the Messiah, the Son of God, the one who has come into the world from God. Then she returned to Mary. She called Mary aside from the mourners and told her, the teacher is here and wants to see you. So Mary immediately went to him. Jesus had stayed outside the village at the place where Martha met him. When the people who were at the house consoling Mary saw her leave so hastily, they assumed she was going to Lazarus' grave to weep. So they followed her there. When Mary arrived and saw Jesus, she fell at his feet and said, Lord, if only you had been here, my brother would not have died. When Jesus saw her weeping and saw the other people wailing with her, a deep anger welled up within him, and he was deeply troubled. Where have you put him? He asked. They told him, Lord, come and see. Then Jesus wept. The people who were standing nearby said, see how much he loved him. But some said, this man healed a blind man. Couldn't he have kept Lazarus from dying? Jesus was still angry as he arrived at the tomb, a cave with a stone rolled across its entrance. Jesus said, roll the stone aside. But Martha, the dead man's sister, protested, Lord, he has been dead for 4 days. The smell will be terrible. In the King James Version, it says, but Lord, by now he stinketh. I kind of like that one. Jesus responded, didn't I tell you you would see God's glory if you believe? So they rolled the stone aside. Then Jesus looked up into heaven and said, Father, thank you for hearing me. You always hear me, but I said it out loud for the sake of all these people standing here, so they will all believe you sent me. Then Jesus shouted, Lazarus, come out. And the dead man came out, his hands and his feet bound in grave clothes, his face wrapped in a headcloth. So what in the world has happened here? Jesus just raised a dead man. So in John chapter 11, verse 25, let me repeat what I read just a moment ago. 11:25. Jesus told Martha, I am the resurrection and the life. Anyone who believes in me will live even after dying. Everyone who lives in me and believes in me will never ever die. Do you believe this, Martha? Let me put your name in there. Do you believe that, Jim? Do you believe that, Sue? Do you believe that, Margaret? Do you believe that, Ralph? Do you believe that, Bill? You say, what does it mean to believe? It means to believe that Jesus lived, died, and rose from the dead and was God in a body. Have you ever asked Christ into your life? He said, if you believe in him and who he is and what he's done, then he will come into your life, and one day you too, he will raise from the dead. Well, what's the point of all this? Jesus raises dead people from the grave. Not only think about this, but do something about this. Ask Jesus to come into your life.